Okay, so let's talk about nails. More and more today, people are getting away from using actual nails, and they're using nail gun nails. So they got finish nailers and brad nailers and nail guns, so they're a lot quicker, a lot easier to use nail guns than our regular nails. But let's talk about nails for a minute, and since they're still out there. So first of all, what types of nails are there? Here, I've written a few of the major ones here on the board. You can see right here a casing nail. A casing nail, the top looks like a T for a golf tee. The casing is another name for the window trim on the outside of the house. So that would be a casing nail. You don't want a whole lot of, when you pound that nail in, you don't want to see a lot of head. So you keep the head is smaller, and you can putty it in and paint over it, and you won't even see it. Okay. The next one would be a finish nail, and it has a barrel-shaped head. It's concave on top, so you can put putty in it to fill it in, and you can varnish over it or paint over it so you can't see it. And then these would be used on the inside of the house. All right. The casing nails would be a galvanized nail, where the finish nails would just be a plain steel nail because they're not going to be exposed to moisture all the time. The next one would be a duplex nail. And the duplex nail is the one with the two heads. Okay, the head, the nail is driven in to the first head, and the other one is left exposed. So these are used most of the cases for temporary purposes. So if you're going to put up some forms, you're pouring some concrete, and you don't want to drive in your nails all the way and then have to get them out, too that difficult, makes it harder. So you use a duplex nail, leaves the head sticking out, and all you can do is hook your hammer on there, get a crowbar, and you can pop those nails out pretty easily. Okay, so those are duplex nails. The next one would be a roofing nail, and of course the roofing nail is the one with the big head to keep it from tearing the shingle, so the shingle won't pull off easily. So it's got a big head on it. Okay, that would be a roofing nail. Over here we have a masonry nail. There's several types of masonry nails. This one is what we would call a cut nail. The top looks like this, and the bottom looks like that. Okay, it just gets tapered down from the big one to the little one. Now, people are like, wow, that ain't even got a point on it. How's it going to get into the concrete? Well, they go into the concrete because when you hit the nail, it pulverizes the concrete underneath it and turns it into dust, and then it allows it to sink into the concrete. Okay, so that is a cut nail. They also have one, looks like a regular nail, and it has flutes on it. So if you look at it from the top, it looks like kind of like that. It's got the flutes on it, and that again is for holding power as you drive it in. This one does come to a point. Okay, so that's a second type of masonry nail. All right, now there's generally two types of gun nails. The first one is what they call a clip nail. That's where when they put the nails together, they butt right up next to each other. So the one head's got to be clipped off so that the plunger can hit it when you pull the trigger. And then the other one is what they call a full head nail. And they're separated by a space, usually plastic or paper or wire that separates them so that they have a full head, and as the plunger hits it, it just takes the one head at a time. Okay, so depending on what brand of gun you buy, that will determine whether they're using a clipped head nail or a full head nail on your gun nails. Okay, one thing you need to be aware of, they come in different sizes as far as the diameter. They come in like 0.120 and 0.131, something like that. So they're not always the same size. So you have to make sure your codes the nails meet your codes, your local codes when you pick your site, not only your diameter of the shaft, but also your lengths have to be, meet code, okay? Then there's a drywall nail, which they don't get a whole lot of use anymore either, because most of the drywall fastening today is done with screws, okay? So, but it comes with a really concave head, so that when you put your mud over the top of it, it sits in there and you can sand it off, and it's real easy to cover up, okay? Over here, we have a couple different types of shanks. You have a ring shank. That's where the nail just has rings around the shank like that. And the other one is where the twist shank, so the twists as you go down, so as you pound the nail in, it kind of turns, okay? So those would be two different types of shanks. Now, what holds a nail in place? Well, nails are held in place by friction. So friction holds them in place. So if you have more surface area, like this masonry nail, or this ring shank nail, or the twist shank nail, it's got more surface area. So more surface area means better holding power. So if you don't want your nails to come out, get that, what they call ring pop, where they start to back out of their holes if they're not put in properly, you can use a ring shank or a twist shank, okay? Most of your nails just have a smooth shank, okay? Different materials, you have galvanized nails and zinc coated. These nails would be used in areas where it's going to get wet, or green treated lumber. When you use green treated lumber, you have to use either galvanized or zinc coated nails, or they will eat the nail away over, in 5 years, they'll eat right through nails, okay? So make sure you use galvanized or zinc coated nails when you use green treated, or you're nailing something outside so that they don't rust, okay? And then you have steel and aluminum are two of the main ones. Other ones, most nails are made out of steel if they're going to be interior, where they're not going to be exposed to the weather. Your aluminum ones will be mostly used on the outside of the house, like if you have aluminum soffits or aluminum fascia boards or aluminum siding, they would use an aluminum nail. One thing you need to remember is if you're using another material, you use nails of the same material. So if you're nailing up some galvanized steel, you need to have galvanized nails. If you're nailing up aluminum, you need to have aluminum nails. If you're nailing up copper, you have to have copper nails. So the nails have to meet the material you're nailing up. Otherwise, the two materials are going to react to each other, and you're going to get all kinds of corrosion and other stuff around the nail heads, okay? So make sure you use the same, the nail and the material are the same, okay? Up here on these nails, we have a common, a sinker, and a box. So if you, for framing, you're going to use one of these three, a common, a sinker, or a box, if you're using hand drives, okay? How can you tell the difference? Well, I drew them here. So the box would be the really skinny one. The common would be the really fat one. And then in the middle you have the sinker. The sinker is, there's two identifying marks or things on a sinker. Number one is that it has a waffle head. And number two, it's usually painted with a gold or a green coating for, so it makes them a little bit more water resistant so they don't rust. And also, they're supposed to be a little bit holding, I think, they hold a little bit better. Okay, so again, you have to look up your codes, local building codes, to make sure you can use the nails. So, I mean, because there's a big difference between this box nail and this common nail as far as diameter of the shaft, which means that this one is going to hold a whole lot better than that one will, because there's more surface area on this one, okay? So those are the different types of nails that are out there. I mean, there's tons of nails. There's joist hanger nails and cat nails, and, you know, pretty much if you have a scenario, you probably got a nail for it, okay? So make sure you use the correct nails for the correct job. And the other thing is the lengths, okay? If you got if you're pounding boards together and you're framing, you're not gonna use a nail that's too short, or a nail, you don't wanna use nails that are actually too long sometimes, okay? So how does it work, all right? So these are based on D sizes, okay? D sizes pretty much tell you what the length of the nail is. A 16D nail is gonna be approximately 3.5 inches long. I say approximately because these are what they call wire feed nails. They take a piece of wire and they just nip it off and cut a head on one point on one side, and they have the head on the other side, and it just feeds them the wire through there. So they're what called wire feed nails. So the 16D would be 3.5 inch nails. That's the general nail for framing, okay? Now, some people do use the 12Ds, which is a 3.25 inch nail. Again, you make sure codes allow you to use the smaller nails. Okay, the diameter of the shaft may be a big thing there, so you have to check. And then you get down to a 10D nail, which is 3 inches. Okay, now, if you're nailing plates together, you have an inch and a half, that's 3 inches. You don't want to use 16D nails because they're 3.5 inches and the points all stick out the bottom. Or if you're doing king studs to jack studs, you don't want to nail them with a 3.5 inch nail because it's only 3 inches and the nail pokes through. And then, you know, back in the day, you reach up to pull yourself through a wall stud and you grab a nail and it rips a hole in your hand, okay? So try to avoid that by using the correct size nails. So king stud, jack stud, use a 3 inch nail. Top plate, double top plate, 3 inch nails, okay? If you're toenailing, use an 8. How long is an 8? Well, an 8's 2.5 inches, okay? A 6D is 2 inches. A 7D would be 2.25, and a 9D would be 2.75 inches, okay? So each D size from 10, it goes down by 1/4 inch for each one. And as you go up to the 16D. Now, if they're bigger nails, you have a 20D, that's 4 inches. Okay, and then they keep going up from there. If you have a 60D, that would be 6 inches. Okay, so you have a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50, and a 60. So each one of them is going to go up 1/2 inch. So a 30 would be 4.5, a 40 would be 5, a 50 would be 5.5, and then a 60 would be 6 inches. Okay, so these up here, people usually call them like pole barn nails or something, but they're 60D nails and they're 6 inches long. Okay, so using the correct length of nail is very important, as using the correct material of the nail and the correct thickness of the nail when it comes to framing, okay? So make sure you choose, when you're framing or finish work or whatever you're doing, you use the correct size nail. I mean, if you're nailing a 3/4 inch board, you're not gonna get out there and you're not gonna use a 16D nail to nail up a piece of 3/4 inch trim, okay? Then we get down to here and maybe with a 10D nail or something. Like a casing is usually a 10D nail. It's either 3/4 or it's a 5/4 board, which is 1 inch thick. Okay, so if you use a 10D for that. If you're nailing siding, you can sometimes use a 6D nail, sometimes you have to use an 8D nail. You just have to look at the recommendations of the manufacturer of the product that you're nailing up. Okay, so there's a lot of variables coming into what type of nail, what size nail, what material, all of that. Make sure you're using the correct nail for the job that you're doing. Okay, I can't reiterate that enough. You have to use the correct nail for the job. If not, you're gonna have problems, okay? It's either gonna split the wood, or it's not gonna hold the wood, or the nails are gonna rust out because they're supposed to be indoor nails and they're outdoor, or they're green material or something else. So make sure you use the correct nail for the correct, or for the job that you're doing, okay? So those are the different types of nails. Use them correctly.